वीडियो देखने से पहले चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें।
See, basically, I like the question and what you're saying. एक कहानी ऐसा है कि, like you know, one is every woman feels defenseless somewhere. She feels victimized by men right from the college time or whenever she becomes a young girl. Or always we look at them like a weaker sex in terms of which the word came because they're defenseless. You know, something happens in her life. I'm talking about now Pooja's character in the film, where a tragedy where she couldn't do anything to help her older sister. So when she sees the film of Bruce Lee, she gets inspired from what he talks and what he feels is necessary. जो भी एक society में जीने के लिए जो भी एक problems होते हैं, to learn self-defense, and she takes it as a dedication. She becomes like a Ekalavya. Just watching his documentaries and things. And in the call sequence, at a point of time, she meets a guy, or he gets impressed that he never saw a girl who can do something like this. Or she likes something in him, where even without uska fighting skill, लेकिन उनका एक guts है, उनका एक ये aspect है. So there's a love story. Initially, he actually loves what she is, but at a point of time, कुछ circumstances की वजह से he starts hating her obsession for Bruce Lee, and he thinks in today's time martial arts, somebody knowing how to punch and kick is an outdated system. If you are pitched against villains with various kinds of weapons, you know, but she has her own, theory about it. So it is like a strange love triangle between her and the boyfriend and Bruce Lee. Because though Bruce Lee is no more, the spirit of Bruce Lee, she's obsessed with it so much that he feels it is wrong for her. In fact, it is going to destroy her. You know? So I would call this film more like a love story against a backdrop of action. Yeah.
पूजा, जब मैं जितना भी हमने देखा वहाँ आपके बहुत दमदार एक्शन नजर आते हैं और जिसमें आप माहिर हैं, आपको उसको समझाने की या बताने की जरूरत नहीं है, लेकिन एक्टिंग इज अ वेरी सीरियस थिंग टू डू. तो उसके लिए क्या तैयारियां करी हैं? व्हाट वाज द ब्रीफ द मोमेंट यू केम ऑन बोर्ड?
So initially when we started shooting for Ladki, हमने एक्शन सीक्वेंसेस से शूट करना स्टार्ट किया. तो मेरे लिए काफ़ी इजी रहा बिकॉज मार्शल आर्ट्स मेरा बैकग्राउंड था. तो व्हेन वी स्टार्टेड शूटिंग तो आई वाज प्रीटी मच very comfortable in front of the camera, and by the time we started doing all the acting sequences, काफ़ी इजी रहा मेरे लिए बिकॉज सर का एक स्पेसिफिक ब्रीफ था मेरे कैरेक्टर को लेके, दैट पूजा करने कैसे बात करती है, ऐसे चलती है, उसका एक डिमीनर है. तो उस हिसाब से मैंने परफॉर्म करने के लिए ट्राई किया, एंड सर वाज कॉन्स्टेंटली गाइडिंग मी थ्रू द फिल्म.
सोशल मीडिया पे जिस तरह से कंपैरिजन चल रहा है,
मुझे एक थोड़ा ऐड करना चाहिए. प्लीज. I basically see acting for me as an experienced director always thought of it as expressing an emotion, you know. So when she is training, when I saw her training, I could see the intensity in her body language. उनकी जो आंखों में, even when she imagines that there is an opponent, even if there is no opponent, that technically comes under acting. You know, so if you have the ability to feel an emotion and then you don't have the consciousness of the camera, that is ideal combination for an actor. So like she said, when she was doing the action sequences, she got used to the camera. She was no longer conscious about it, and now she has a natural flair for feeling an emotion. If you see, even in the fight sequences, you can see her face is carrying the emotion. It is not just about her body speak. So that's what I think makes it come.
मुझे जिस तरह से सोशल मीडिया पे डिस्कशन रहा और सोशल मीडिया में बहुत सी बातें कही गई, जब मैं आपकी इस फिल्म की बात करता हूँ, रंगीला, जैसे हमारे एंकर साहब भी बता रहे थे, आप किस तरह से लेती हैं somebody like उर्मिला, उससे कंपैरिजन हो जाना, और किसी भी लिहाज से वो कंपैरिजन तो हो रहा है?
Uh, Actually, I mean, it's really amazing to see how people are, taking the film, like they're comparing it to Rangila. But one thing is to be sure that I can never be Urmila ma'am. Like how in the film I'm trying to do action how Bruce Lee used to do it. I can never be Urmila ma'am. I can never be Bruce Lee. They are just like very unique creatures. So what I'm trying to do here is just just showing my love to Bruce Lee and trying to perform accordingly. So when people compare me to Bruce Lee, they call me a Dragon girl or a Bruce Lee girl. It makes me really happy, yet I try to keep my legs on the ground. So yeah, when people posted Urmila ma'am's picture on social media and they were comparing me to her, I felt really special. I mean she's beautiful. I would love to be like her someday.
Pooja,
Hi.
welcome to the world of glitz and glamour and coming through Ram Gopal Varma. You are very lucky. Coming at this time, when women like heroines, they are all craving to do action film.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, you are the perfect, you have a perfect persona and you have, whatever we see, you are the perfect match of action and beauty. What do you have to say, about your performances that you've done? And along with action, we can see sex oozing. What do you have to say?
I wasn't like this at all when I met her. I came from a sportsman background. I was a total tomboy girl, if you say. When I met her, when I performed in front of him, I was wearing tracksuit and I was very underconfident at that time. But the moment we started working on the project and I started to learn that I should look in a certain way, I should wear a certain type of clothes and carry a certain demeanor. So I started working on that. I started doing my own makeup and wearing little bit girly clothes, started wearing earrings. So that change from a sportsman to a heroine, it took a very long time for me and I worked really hard on it. I worked really hard on my body. Like as you can see, I'm wearing bikini and all other clothes are also there. So I'm really proud of what we have achieved with the film, and I think we're just overthinking it, like calling it what did you say? Just the word you used. Yeah, sex posing. I don't think so. That's the point here. We're just trying to empower women. We're just trying to send a message that no matter what clothes you're wearing, whether it's a sari or a bikini or jeans, you should be able to protect yourself. If a scenario like this comes in your life, you should be you should be able to protect yourself.
That's what I meant. You are so presentable.
To add to that, because Pooja is facing questions for the first time in her life, I think, so I think maybe she's not able to fully capture this. Now, then I had a long discussion with her in the context of before, Interestingly, the fact that Rangila has been mentioned, Now, when I was making Rangila, Urmila also similarly like Pooja, she's come from a very Maharashtrian middle class background, very conservative family. At the time, I told Urmila, see, if there is no such thing, so there's a very age-old thing when journalists ask, does a story demand exposure? But no story demands anything, first of all, Now it's a question, because a film is a visual. How the actor is looking, there's a layer to it, and which is backed by the story. Now, because Urmila has such a fantastic body, Now, if Rangila, when one of the most memorable visuals in that is when she is running on the beach, I don't think that visual will work without what she's wearing, like a swimsuit or something, So the point when I spoke to Pooja initially, of course she coming from the, first of all, she's not coming from a film background, she's comes from a martial artist background. So I told her, now you've got a body which is so perfect in terms of it's an inspiration. So in the context when a Tiger Shroff or a Hrithik Roshan or a John Abraham or any of them, all the time they're waiting to show off their bodies, you know. And I think it's a double standard to think a woman should not do that, especially when she's in that the same visual art of filmmaking. So I said, if you do it with conviction, you take a pride in what your body is, that will come out as effective. Because most of the time you're scared of your peers, what they will think, what somebody will say, what somebody will point out. You know, that comes as hardness. Like even in Rangira, I remember my mother, when we used to see Singing in the Rain, those kind of films. So she was used to enjoy a lot of the girls wearing bikinis and all that. But she just likes the feel. So I told Urmila them from the same context. But in those days, if you look at some of these Sarkailo Katela kind of song, where the lyrics and the dance moves are designed to kind of make it look vulgar. Maybe for some sexual audience, I'm not saying it's wrong or right. But when you feel it's beautiful, it will come across beautiful and people connect to the emotion. You know. So, for example, whatever you saw just now, I would think if she's not very close like that, the precision of her movements and her control of her body will not be the same if she's wearing track pants or some karate dress, for example. Yeah.
Pooja, have you started getting offers after watching the trailers? Because the trailer is looking really very enlightening and it shows you in a very powerful role, you know.
I am getting a couple of offers right now, but I'm choosing every script very, very carefully because I want to do, like in the beginning at least, I want to do action films and the role should be pivotal. I mean, there should be something strong about that role that it should inspire people, I feel that. So I'm choosing script very carefully right now.
No, I don't ever do that, but I definitely am going to make Ladki 2 for sure. Again, the same companies, all of them together. All the script work is also done. And the fact, one is I love Bruce Lee, and then I love to see the beautiful body of a woman in front of my camera more than anything else. So in both ways, I think Ladki 2 is on the cards.
Yeah, Ajit sir, yeah. Ladki is very intriguing. What was it that you chose this title? Because there's no adjective, you know.
Yeah.
The reason after this, what is it that the Chinese people found fascinating when you sent them the footage to?
See, I will tell two things. I mean, there's two parts to your question. The first part is because in the script there are 3-4 characters. When they first hear about Pooja, like Abhimanyu Singh or Rajpal Yadav, they keep saying, Ladki? Ladki nahi kya? What are you saying? You know? So the shock that a woman can do what you expect from a man. In fact, there's a very typical scene in the beginning of the film where I did just a role reversal. You've seen hundreds of films where when some goons are teasing a girl and a guy comes to in her defense. I just did the same scene with the role reversal where the guy is being teased and the girl comes to rescue him. You know? So what all you typically think a Ladki cannot do, or there's no way it can happen, which is the reason I thought the ironically to call Ladki. You know, so in mind, it's not like Ladki, it's Ladki. That is how I pronounce it in my mind, and you know, that might not come in the just to see the logo. To answer your second part, see, one part is that why did the Chinese get so excited seeing her, and second part is like it's a shock to us. It's releasing in 40,000 more than 40,000 screens in China on the same day. You know, the nearest I can explain that is when we saw Bruce Lee in India. To see a Chinese face suddenly coming, I think it seemed so exotic because we never saw anything like that. I don't think if Enter the Dragon with the same martial art technique, maybe a black or an American or someone, I don't know if it will have the same impact. So I think to see an Indian face doing what they are experts. See, martial arts are born in China. Bruce Lee came from there, Jackie Chan, all of them, Tony Yen, at least 4 to 5 of the top martial artists, they came from China. So I think they find it very exotic to see Indian face doing. I mean, they feel that even if you search on Google, if you go to the many famous female martial artist films which was made in China, like the Haiti Girl, there are quite a few of them. And they felt none of them matched Pooja's film. That is the main thing. You can check out for yourself, in a sense. So I think a combination of an exotic face which doesn't belong to them, but she is doing something probably better than their actors there at the moment. I think this is the combination which worked.
I have a question for Ramu. Ramu, basically speaking, whether you agree or not, you are a trendsetter in the sense you used to make raw films with newcomers in the lead, and also you were one of the first filmmakers who dubbed films in Tamil, Telugu and other languages years long before the pan-India term was discovered. So how do you feel now that every film made in South is becoming a pan-India film which is being dubbed in 5, 6, 7 languages?
See, to start with, I think, and typically as Indians, we all want to just come up with a term and label. If you remember maybe some 20 years back, when Meera Nair's film became a big hit, Monsoon Wedding, they started calling crossover films. You always want to put a name, So, see, eventually, if Hollywood films are released all over the world, but they don't call it a pan-world film. That's a typical Indian mentality, If you remember, even in the time of when the gentleman, the Prabhudeva film, Hamse Mukabla and all that, whichever is a big film, used to come and run here also in Hindi. So for a short period that happened, maybe 3-4 years or something. There was instances when something like Hum Aapke Kaun or Maine Pyar Kiya were dubbed in South, in Telugu and Tamil language, which worked. But what happened recently is the numbers have become so big that they overtook Hindi collections. That is where the shock is. So, the satellite market of the so-called Hindi dubbing market, which was always very big for many, many years. But people had this mental block, both in North and South, was satellite mein. So they never even bothered to check if it will work, if you release it in the theatre. So they thought they were getting a handsome chunk of money, chalo Hindi dubbing mein base. But they got a shock of their life with Pushpas and KGF 2 and Triple R and all this. So I think now it is a time, especially because of OTT, any good content can be put anywhere, because if people are watching Malayalam films on OTT, sitting in Bombay, or Korean films, so the whole world is at your disposal. So then a theatrical release is just about your capacity and your own vision of whether it can do well or not. I think that change has come now, very suddenly, and it took everybody by surprise. A lot of people have this misconception that Bollywood is shocked about this, but actually South is equally shocked. It is not true that only Bollywood, because I think now Kannada industry, for example, we were not aware of its existence. Nobody in Andhra Pradesh sees a Kannada film, in Telangana or in Tamil Nadu. And now that became the highest grossing Hindi film. A dubbed Hindi film is highest grosser of Indian cinema. Is something which you could have never thought of in your life.
Yeah. And one question for Pooja.
Yes, sir.
Pooja, आडनाव तुमचं कार्णिक आहे, म्हणजे मराठी तुमचं मदर टंग आहे, पण आता मराठीमध्ये ऑफर मिळालं तर करणार काय?
Naki, sir. Why not? I mean, Marathi is like, I've seen a lot of Marathi films, and I would really love to do it. अगर कोई अच्छी film, अच्छी script हो तो क्यों नहीं?
And what did you like as far as Gopal Varma's direction is concerned? Because he has a unique, different directorial style.
I think what he has done with Pooja Karnik's character, it's just gonna stick with me for the rest of my life. And Pooja Karnik and Ladki holds a very special place in my heart. So, जो Pooja Karnik का character है वो हमेशा मेरे लिए बहुत ही special रहेगा.
रामू सर, आपकी फिल्म चीन में भी रिलीज होने वाली है, तो वहाँ की ऑडियंस की पसंद नापसंद को ध्यान रख के कहानी में कुछ आपने बदलाव या कुछ ऐड किया?
No, not
और
at all.
दूसरी बात, क्या गाने भी होंगे वहाँ के वर्जन में?
Yes, they are there. See, पहली बात ये है कि the basic point of the story, of course, right from the beginning, she wants to improve her training, and she looks for. Then she hears of this one grand old master who's an expert in Jeet Kune Do. That's where the Chinese character came into the film, you know. And then there is a thing, the fact that she's obsessed with Bruce Lee. Her boyfriend takes her to Foshan City as a gift to her, and that's where the highest, largest and highest statue of Bruce Lee is there in the world, like you would have seen in the trailer. So I think the element of she going there to the native place of Bruce Lee as a big emotional high, that is one part. And the fact her teacher is a Chinese grandmaster who teaches her Jeet Kune Do, the Bruce Lee style. These are the two reasons, but they were always there in the script. I didn't make any changes because the Chinese production was involved.
Pooja, in the real life, did you have a situation where somebody referred to you as Ladki and then you showed them that you are a super girl Ladki? ऐसा situation हुआ है in real life?
Almost. I was going somewhere with my mom, and एक कोई बंदा आया and he was on the bike. तो उन्होंने कुछ कमेंट किया मेरी मॉम के ऊपर एंड मैं बहुत गुस्सा हो गई एंड आई स्टार्टेड रनिंग बिहाइंड हिम एंड वो बाइक पे थे तो आई ऑलमोस्ट गॉट हिम एंड देन ही जस्ट स्लिप्ड अवे सो आई विश नॉट विश आई एम हैप्पी कि ऐसा कोई सिचुएशन मेरे ऊपर नहीं आया अभी तक एंड किसी और लड़की के ऊपर भी ना आया आई विश फॉर दैट
रामू सर
Yes.
यहाँ आज इंडस्ट्री में बड़े फिल्मकार नए मतलब बड़े लोगों को लेकर फिल्म बनाना ज़्यादा पसंद करते हैं नामचीन कलाकारों वहीं आप नए कलाकारों के साथ दौड़ लगाते हैं ऐसा
See, I technically make genre films. I don't make films which have this large base, you know, with big stars. They have images and they have to cater to a large number of diverse kind of audiences. So, right from my first film, I always made. When you take new people, they look believable, they look relatable. So if you take a movie like Satya, you actually believe that they were there in the slum. You know, if you, the moment you take known people, their past films images will come into their characters, and the believability quotient keeps going lesser and lesser. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. That is what many filmmakers believe. But I like to get them immersed in the story and believe in the existence of this character in real time. That is where I have a tendency to take new people.
आप सेक्स और क्राइम से बाहर निकलकर कभी सोशल मुद्दों पर फिल्म क्यों नहीं बनाते?
सेक्स और क्या?
क्राइम।
मैं सेक्स पे कहाँ फिल्म बनाया मैंने? अगर आप लोग बताओ मुझे।
मोस्टली फिल्में आपकी सर बहुत
see, the point is beauty and sex are different. Please understand. Maybe you don't like women, I don't know, but I think. Okay, sir. Now the question is already answered. If everybody clap means they don't have a problem. So only you have a problem. Okay. Now coming to the crime part. See, I definitely do not like. Normal people and normal people's life stories. I want dramatic, I want intensity, I want the darkness, like a horror or a gangster or like you said, a crime drama. I definitely have an affinity for that. But at the same time, I made films like Uncute, which is a love story. I made Lord, which is a caper film, like a tragic adventure. And I made Sarkar, which is a political drama, which is not really a gangster thing. So I think I might be the only guy who probably put my finger in every kind of film. It is not like a stuck to one thing.
रामू सर, आपकी फिल्म का समंदर भी एक लोकेशन होता है, समंदर का एक कैरेक्टर होता है, तो समंदर से कोई खास लगाव, इसकी कोई वजह?
Not on the samandar, but girls in bikinis in samandar. I have. So I used to have that right from my college days. I went to Goa for a trip. I think it stuck from there. You will watch water, sir.
क्या मुश्किल रहा ऑन स्क्रीन करना एक्शन तो ऑलरेडी माहिर है ज्यादा क्या एंजॉय किया द रोमांस पार्ट और द एक्शन पार्ट
I think both, because in a real life also I'm a very lovey-dovey person. I believe in love. I believe in action, so I got to perform both the things. So it was really fun for me to manage that.
अच्छा अनकंफर्टेबल किसमें थे, एक्शन में या रोमांस में?
I was really uncomfortable when I was performing the action, because I was trying hard not to injure anybody. Like all the what should I say, fighters were there, and I was trying not to hit them very hard. So that was the only difficult part was there. Romance was easy, and action was much more easy than anything else.
रामू सर आपसे सवाल, जंगल से लेकर सत्या, सरकार, अनगिनत फिल्में आपके नाम और बहुत बड़े बड़े दिग्गजों के साथ आप काम कर चुके हैं, जैन इंडस्ट्री को चल रहा हूँ, क्या बदलाव देखते हैं आप जब मैं बात करता हूँ एक फिल्म की रिलीज जब आ जाती है और अब एक मोनोपोली सा माहौल चल गया है कि भाई आपके पास एज जिसला है तो आपको थिएटर मिल रहे हैं या आपका यू गेटिंग मोर थिएटर मोर स्क्रीन, इस बारे में आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे? क्या वजह मानते हैं जो आज माहौल है जब कोई एक नया मेकर, जो आपकी तो बात कर नहीं करूँगा मैं, कि कोई नया मेकर सब कुछ बेच बात के आता है और एक फिल्म बनाता है, इंडस्ट्री का हिस्सा बनता है, लेकिन फिल्म थिएटर तक पहुंच ही नहीं पाती है. What's your take on the current scenario?
See, I remember Amitabh Bachchan told one in an interview, I was there, he said, whatever people when they say that we are not getting the opportunity, I think he said something like, you can't really put a good man down. So the whole point is, I think, if I've been a filmmaker for an X amount of time, I was also nobody when I first started. So I think the responsibility is on me to convince somebody that my content is worth putting, because film is a very expensive business, to make it, to release it, and there are different people. Theater का एक अलग perspective होता है, distributors का अलग होता है, investors का अलग होता है, actors का, everyone has their own interest. So I think like water finds its own balance, So eventually, in a competitive world, others 1,000 people try, probably one person will make it, But the 999 people not making it, that is their fate. I'm not saying that, but I think when you are venturing into that kind of a business, you have to, be prepared to take that kind of a backlash, But every once in a while, you always see. Like some film comes which is not backed by anybody big, any big camp or whatever those things are called. The big lesson for everyone is Kashmiri fights, for example. A film of that budget and without any big names backing it, if it has done that itself is proving your point wrong. Because it happens very less number of times. I'm not saying no to that, but I think it's a function of how the business aspect of the industry functions. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Pooja. This is Pravina from Navratri Media.
Hi, Pravina.
खूप सुंदर दिसतेस. पहिले तर तुला सांगणार आहे.
Thank you.
तू या मूवी मध्ये बोल्ड आणि ब्युटिफुल कॅरेक्टर प्ले केलेला आहेस. म्हणजे तू प्रूव्ह केलं की मुलींचा हात फक्त बांगड्या घालण्यासाठी नाही, वेळ आली तर त्याचा वापर मारण्यासाठी पण होऊ शकतो.
नक्की.
सो मला सांग की बीइंग अ वुमन, व्हॉट इज द बिगेस्ट स्ट्रेंथ तू काय शिकलेस या मूवी मधून?
माझे जे कॅरेक्टर आहे या फिल्ममध्ये पूजा कानेचं, ते खूप स्ट्रॉंग आणि खूप पॉवरफुल आहे. मीन शी नोज व्हॉट शी इज डुइंग, शी नोज what decision is to be made. तो फिल्म में जैसे दिखाया गया है, so if you want me to answer in Marathi, I will do that. तर मूवीमध्ये पण जे माझं कॅरेक्टर आहे ते खूप स्ट्रॉंग दाखवलंय आणि कुठेतरी असं माझी अशी इच्छा आहे की जे मूवीमध्ये मी पोर्ट्रे केलंय तेच मी कॅरी ऑन करू शकते की नाही इन माय लाईफ. तर तोच माझा प्रयत्न आहे आणि माझी इच्छा आहे की पूजा कानिक नेहमी माझ्यामध्ये असावी. जे पण मी डिसिजन घेते लाईफमध्ये, जे काही आय एम ट्राईंग टू परफॉर्म एनिथिंग, सो आय वॉन्ट टू कॅरी ऑन दॅट कॅरेक्टर फॉरवर्ड.
Hi, this is Sohil. On your right.
Last question.
Congratulations. Just needed to know there are lots of people who say कि राम गोपाल वर्मा का charm अभी नहीं रहा the way it used to be. and now he's become little sunky also, like sunky हो गए actually. तो how do you take this thing and आप इसके बारे में क्या कहना चाहो?
In this particular interview, did you ever hear anything me saying Sanki something? So that okay. So which means no, I understand. So that's okay. Yeah. So you see, I have a very strong opinions on things, and I use my Twitter to say anything what I feel, and that is the whole point of having a Twitter. If you don't say, then why have it? See, if I am talking to someone in person, and if I am talking to my followers, that's an internal communication between us. And if anyone thinks I'm Sanki, he can unfollow. He doesn't need to bear with me. So as long as we have that freedom, yeah, that is one point. So with regard to what, everyone has an opinion on everyone. So the point is, I don't have time to think about people who have the time to think about me. Yeah.
But you are not taking lots of pangas, like previously you never used to that way.
I never take pangas.
Even industry में बहुत सारे लोगों से आप पंगा ले रहे हो आप actually ऐसा हो गया है.
So tell me a single thing. Give me one single example. I express my opinion of something happening on the public domain, not on a person.
Yeah, that's a total.
And I never did take a panga with anyone.
राहुल इसको ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं क्योंकि आप किसी के शुरुआती दिल में नहीं है आपने आपने बहुत प्यार किया और जब किसी को बहुत प्यार
सबसे नफरत करना शुरू
हमने आपको बहुत प्यार किया और फिर जब प्यार किसी से हो जाता है तो उसका अगर कोई कम हो जाए काम या उम्मीद बढ़ जाती है तो फिर हमें कम लगने लगता है तो इस तरीके से देख सकते हैं कि पिछले एक दशक से तरीके का आपका नाम रहा है आपकी फिल्मों की जो छोटे छोटे शहरों में चर्चा होती थी आपके नाम की फिल्म देखने जाते थे वो कहीं ना कहीं भूमिल होता गया क्या इससे रामपाल वर्मा एज अ ब्रांड भी कहीं भूमिल में आपको लगता है बॉलीवुड में आपकी फिल्में पैसा कमाने की आपने बताया था बात
But I'm not very sure. See, you are giving an opinion of what people are saying. So what do you want me to say about that? My reaction on that. No, that I understood. So I'm saying you want me to give my analysis of that. Yeah. See, the point is, I always maintain, see, after whether I make a Raat, a horror film, then after Satya became a blockbuster, I did a film called Kaun, which is shot in 15 days. I always kept jumping from film to film, which all of them worked for the budget in it. I never ever said I want to make the big film and whatever the commercial blockbusters and all that. So that is not in the space I am. So after that, before that, when the social media was not there so active, so they took it the way it is. Now the social media, everybody has a mouth and everybody says, "अरे ये क्या हो गया? इसको ये संकी हो गया? ऐसा फिल्म क्यों बना रहा है? ये तो अभी सेक्स और क्राइम बना रहे जैसे आपने कहा." So all this is happening on a resound because of the social media is what I feel.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन है
मेरा भी है क्या
सर जब आप इस फिल्म के लिए काम कर रहे थे स्क्रिप्ट बना रहे थे या फिल्म को कर रहे थे तो जिस तरीके से अभी OTT की प्लेटफॉर्म काफ़ी हावी हो चुका है बॉलीवुड का तो आपने कभी सोचा था कि इस लड़की का मैं OTT बनाऊँ ना एक बॉलीवुड मूवी बनाकर
See, OTT is just one more device. See, there is no such thing as OTT and theatre. Theatre का function है इसलिए कि because the rentals of theatres and publicity aspect एक ज़्यादा होगा. Other than that, I don't see because whether you want to release on OTT or this or satellite or some other way, I think it is a decision of the makers. आज की डेट आप बहुत सारे टाइम आप ये भी देख रहे हैं कि all of them can happen at the same time or some in a staggered release it can happen. So I don't. आज के डेट में मेरे ख्याल से OTT और theatre का कुछ absolutely there is no difference.
Rahul, this film is an Indo-Chinese production. तो हम जहाँ पर Chinese को बैन करने की बात कर रहे हैं, वहाँ पर आप Chinese के साथ collaboration और Chinese लेकर आ रहे हो, तो इस पर पब्लिक की क्या प्रतिक्रिया रहेगी?
See, the point is एक political aspect होती है. Politically, what the two governments are feeling is different, and cinema is about art. Martial arts is an art. Bruce Lee is someone who's loved all over the world. Now, just because there's a temporary, sometimes a problem happens, because even those problems, you don't know, एक दिन होते, अगले हफ्ते निकल जाते, फिर वापस आते. That is how it happened. They sound more like squabbles to me. But when we are not making a political statement in the film, then I think problems with the country should not affect what is not related to it.
But revenue system works in that thing. When it's an Indo-Chinese production.
No, revenue system works based on the principles of China, what they do there. I mean, in terms of the kind of system what they operate, which obviously we have to go by the law of the land, and the same thing here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.